Hi everyone, welcome to the IQ Movie channel, and in this video we will discuss a film called Der Hauptmann 2017. This film tells the story of a German soldier who left his military duty without permission. And because of his actions, he was hunted and targeted by the German military police to be killed. But a miracle came. He accidentally found a Nazi officer's uniform with the rank of captain, which turned his life around from a fugitive to a very cruel general. And before we move on to the storyline of the film, please subscribe to this channel first to always get updates on other interesting film storylines from this channel. In April 1945 in Germany, exactly 2 weeks before the end of the Second World War, it looks like Willi Harold is being chased by the German military police for defecting from his military duty. But Harold managed to hide, and for a while he still survived. While resting, he saw another German soldier named Miller who also ran away from his military duty. He immediately helped Miller and took him into an empty room. In short, the night came. Now Harold and Miller were starving. They took the initiative to steal food from residents' homes. But unfortunately they were caught while stealing chicken eggs. Because of that, Miller was beaten to death by the residents. But Harold managed to escape and survived. He continued to walk aimlessly, until finally he saw a car broke down. While inspecting the car, he finds a uniform of a Nazi officer with the rank of captain. Harold immediately put on the uniform and acted like a Nazi officer.
Ja, sagen Sie mal, was erlauben Sie sich? Was haben Sie gesagt? Was habe ich gehört da? Ja? Vielen Dank.
Soon after that, seen another German soldier named Freitag. He immediately saluted and reported the situation to Harold. He thought Harold was a real captain. Without suspecting anything, he immediately offered to help repair his broken car. The car was successfully repaired by Freitag. And in return, Harold gave an apple to Freitag. He also made Freitag as his assistant. Then Harold told Freitag to find a place to stay for the night. After a long walk, they finally managed to find an inn and they spent the night at the inn.
35 wecken? Jawohl.
The next day, Harold and Freitag headed off somewhere. But on the way, they heard a commotion from one of the residents' houses. They went to check things out. It turns out that in the resident's house there are other German soldiers who are looting food. Not only looting food, the soldiers also tortured the owner of the house. Harold, who saw it, immediately stopped them, while asking for a letter of assignment from the soldiers. After being checked, it turned out that the 3 soldiers were also running away from their military duties. For fear of being punished, one of the soldiers named Kipinski asked Harold to include them in Harold's task force. Then without a second thought, Harold immediately accepted them. After explaining in detail about the mission to be carried out, Harold and his troops rushed off to carry out the mission. While resting, 2 German soldiers carrying anti-aircraft guns suddenly approached them. They asked to join Harold's army. Harold immediately accepted it, and now his army had grown to 6 people. They went back on their way. But unfortunately the car Harold was driving broke down because it ran out of fuel. And arrogantly Harold asked his troops to pull the car. He was really making use of the power he currently had. However, Kipinski, who was already very upset, immediately vented his emotions to Harold. But suddenly, a group of German military police arrived and immediately inspected all of Harold's troops. At that time Harold looked so scared and panicked. Because it could be that his disguise as a mock captain would be exposed. He was also involved in a debate with the leader of the German military police named Schneider. Captain Schneider asked Harold to show his military assignment letter. But Harold didn't want to. He said that he was currently carrying out a special mission given directly by the highest German authority, namely Rudolf Hitler. Harold threatened to write Captain Schneider's name on his military assignment letter to report to Hitler. Captain Schneider fell silent for a moment and finally he ordered his troops to lower their weapons. Now he truly believed that Harold was not a mock captain. Harold, who actually had no goals, finally decided to join Captain Schneider, on the grounds of getting a direct picture of the situation behind the front lines. Then Captain Schneider took Harold and his troops to the defector detention camp. Arriving at the checkpoint, they met another officer named Captain Junker. It turns out that Captain Junker is the one who chased Harold at the beginning of the film. Captain Junker then got into the car and followed him to the detention camp. While in the Junker car, he felt familiar with Harold's face. He kept looking at Harold's face and it made him very panicked. But luckily Captain Junker didn't really remember where he had met Harold before. They finally arrived at the defectors' detention camp.
Hey, was predigten die Parteien? So, und jetzt dürfen wir sie durchfüttern, bis die Justiz...
Soon another officer named Scott, who was in charge of the camp, arrived. He explained to Harold about the problems that occurred in the camp, where many prisoners escaped and looted valuables belonging to the citizens. Scott was fed up with it and wanted to end it all. However, they had no authority and had to wait for a decision from the military court, which never came. They hoped that Harold could convey their grievances to Hitler. But to his surprise, Harold actually said that he might be able to do things better and faster. Captain Junker and Scott, who heard it, were instantly delighted. But now another problem arose. When Harold wanted to check the prisoners in the prison barracks, suddenly Scott told him that he had no authority in the barracks, because the one supervising him was another officer named Hansen, who also served on the military court. And so arrogantly, Harold, who claimed to have been sent directly by Hitler without hesitation, immediately gave this authority to Scott. After being authorized, Scott also invites Harold to examine the prisoners. There Harold directly interrogated the prisoners. The prisoners who did not want to answer immediately were brutally tortured by Kipinski.
Vergewaltigt.
Geplündert?
After that, all the prisoners were taken out of the barracks. Looks like something bad is going to happen at the camp. And sure enough, Harold apparently started executing the prisoners one by one. Aya ordered Scott to make a trench to be used as a place of execution. One of the other officers who heard this immediately told Hansen that all the prisoners were being executed by Harold and Scott. Hansen, who heard it, immediately rushed to meet Harold and Scott. Hansen looks so angry. He asked Harold not to act as he pleased. Hansen then contacted his superior, Dr. Till, who was in charge of the Justice Department. He reported that at his camp there was a captain who claimed to have authority over the Der Führer and had executed 5 prisoners. Dr. Till, who heard it, then ordered Harold to wait until tomorrow before he took any further action. Dr. Till also said that he and the Chief Prosecutor General would come to the camp tomorrow to discuss the case and examine Harold's military assignment. Harold was instantly furious. He left Hansen just like that. But Scott immediately chased after Harold. He said he had a military acquaintance who might be able to help them get rid of Hansen and Dr. Till. A few moments later, Scott then contacted the acquaintance and told him everything in detail. Until in the end the authority in the camp was fully entrusted to Harold. Now Hansen and Dr. Till have absolutely no authority to stop Harold.
Schlaf, Kindchen, schlaf.
After gaining authority in the camp, Harold again continued the execution of the prisoners. Until night falls. The execution of the prisoners has not yet been completed. Harold and his supporters really wanted to kill all the prisoners in the camp. The next night, Harold held a party to celebrate their success in slaughtering the prisoners, and they all seemed to really enjoy the party. Suddenly there was a commotion between Kipinski and one of the camp officers. The commotion got worse, because everyone was already drunk. The sleeping trench diggers were also victims. They were brutally tortured by Kipinski and the others. Scott and Harold, who saw it, immediately stopped what Kipinski and the others were doing. But Kipinski didn't listen. He kept beating the trench digger, and it made Harold angry. Harold gathered all the ditch diggers and then tied them all up. It was discovered that the diggers were renegade soldiers. Harold, who was very fed up, then ordered the 4 diggers to run, and then he shot them dead one by one. The next day, Scott reports to Harold that he and his troops will be exploring the local area to make sure that there are no more defectors hanging around and disturbing the civilians. Soon after that, Harold and the others had a return party. It turned out that they had carried out a massacre of the prisoners in the camp. Scott and his troops had returned to the camp. When Scott was about to report to Harold, suddenly a terrible thing happened. The Scott was instantly killed and his body shattered into pieces. It turns out that the air forces of the Soviet Union and their allies began to attack the camp. Immediately the camp is flat without residue. But again, Harold survived. Not only Harold. Freitag, Kipinski and some of his troops also survived. Then Harold and his surviving troops decided to head to the city. Harold then told the residents that he was a judge and the head of a special detachment that would restore the laws and regulations of the city. Soon after that, he and his troops again held a party, and some comfort women were also presented at the party. Harold seemed to be interested in one of the comfort women. But when you want to dance with that woman, Kipinski, who was next to him, immediately grabbed the woman, and it made Harold very angry. Harold immediately punished Kipinski with such cruelty.
Anlegen. Feuer!
After executing Kipinski, Harold and his troops resumed the party. But at the same time, a group of German military police arrived. They immediately surrounded Harold and his troops. In the end, Harold and his troops were arrested and then in court. In the trial, he was accompanied by Captain Junker. There Harold was sentenced to death. But stupidly, Captain Junker and one of the other officers even defended Harold. They said that what Harold did was not wrong because it did not harm the country at all.
Mir hat sich Harold immer als Offizier verhalten.
Hat ein forsches militärisches Auftreten an den Tag gelegt.
Captain Junker advises judge to close Harold's case. Because now Germany has lost and Berlin has been controlled by the Soviet Union and its allies. On May 23, 1945, Harold was finally captured by the Allies. And on November 14, 1946, Harold and 6 of his accomplices were executed. And that's the end of Der Hauptmann's film this time. I hope you guys are entertained with the plot of the film this time. As usual, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to always get updates on other interesting film storylines, and see you in the next video.